Hey everyone, Eric Kimball here, and as many of you know, I had a career in the building trades as a remodeler primarily, nearly 25 years. I don't do it anymore, but that was my life at one time. And one of the things that I did a lot of was hanging drywall and finishing drywall. It's one of those skills that I'm really good at, and I don't say that in a bragging way. It's just a fact. I'm really good at it. And I think I'm really good at it because I got a little bit of advice early on from an old drywall finisher. The place was Craftsbury Common, Vermont, way up in the Northeast Kingdom. I had been going to school there. I was in the Sterling School. Back then, it was called the Grassroots Project in Vermont. The year was 1976, 1977. That was a school year. And as the story goes, I got kicked out of school with 2 weeks remaining. And it wasn't that I did anything bad. I just didn't want to pay a 10% tuition assessment at the very end of the year because I didn't think it was worth it. I didn't think the school was worth it. And I was told, well, if you don't pay, then you need to be out of here by the weekend, the director told me. So I had made friends in the town of Craftsbury Common with a man and his wife, Bruce and Patty. They lived on the outskirts of town in a big old white clapboard New England building that they had bought from the school some years before. The school, the Sterling School, was a old prep school that was in transition in the 70s. And they determined they didn't need this building, so they sold it to Bruce and Patty. And Bruce and Patty had just sold the building. They lived in, it was a big building. They lived in a very small portion way in the back. And they sold it to the Craftsbury Common Inn, which was directly across the street. And the inn wanted to restore that big old building to be an extension of the inn, to have more rooms. And it so happened that Bruce was a carpenter. So part of the arrangement was that he would restore the building and make it into what the inn people wanted. I had made friends with Bruce and Patty. They needed help. They put the word out, and I was one of the students who showed up to help. And we established a really good relationship. And when I told them that I was probably going to get kicked out of school, they said, you can come live with us and work with us as we restore this building. And that was quite an opportunity because Bruce was the best, one of the best. In retrospect, I know he was one of the best at his trade, at the building and carpentry. And that was my first experience. That summer of 1977, when I was 19 years old, that was my first experience with the building trades. We started right jacking up the building, digging out underneath, laying concrete block for a new foundation, and right up to the attic. And so I learned a lot. And that experience from that summer with Bruce kind of charted my course in life. I wanted to be like Bruce. I wanted to work with my hands in the trades. And that's what I did. I want to tell you the story about the drywaller guy. Bruce hired a guy to finish the drywall. He hired this old guy. And when you're 19 years old, anyone over 40 is old. And this guy could have been 40. He could have been 45. But in my mind's eye, he's in his 60s. He's like the age I am now. And this guy, he did it all himself. We hung the drywall, but this guy finished it. And he had a white shirt on, t-shirt. He had white pants. He had white sneakers. He had a white hat, and he had a hawk. You know, the handle in the middle and the platform. And that's what he used. People don't use hawks all that much for finishing drywall anymore. They have a pan. I'll show you at the end of this video what I like to use, which is different from a hawk or a pan. But anyway, I watched this guy. I didn't help him, but I watched him. As I was doing other things, I would stop and talk to him, and I was intrigued with this whole skill of finishing drywall. And I said to him one day, I think I'd like to learn how to do this. And how do I learn this? And he said, well, the best thing to do is you work for somebody who's in this trade. And his father was a plasterer before, and he grew up in it, okay? So I didn't have that experience at all. He said to me one day, and I'll never forget this, he said to me, you need to realize that finishing drywall is not like other skills in the building trades. Most of the building trade skills are mechanical. You nail the studs, you lay the block. There's things to know. You need to develop the skills to be good at it, but it's mechanical. It's not an art so much as drywall is. And this is the part that stuck in my brain. He said, but drywall is art in reverse. Instead of starting with a blank canvas and creating your art on that canvas, you're starting with a collage of seams and nail holes. We didn't use screws back then in 1977. No drywall screws. It was all nailed. And corner beads and cracks and gaps. You start with that collage, and then you create a blank canvas. And he said, that's your objective. That's what you need to learn to do. That concept has stuck with me. And it took a few years of experience finishing drywall to develop the skill. And if you're involved in finishing drywall in remodeling situations, quite often you've got to be a little bit more creative, and you need to be even better at the art of finishing drywall. That's my opinion. That's what the old drywaller told me. He said, it's an art, but it's art in reverse, finishing drywall. So I'm going to finish this video by showing you and telling you about my very favorite drywall finishing tool. And this is it right here. It's a 10-inch blade, stainless steel, and it's on a shelf. The blade is like a shelf. You can see that, I think, right there. And this is a knife that you may never have seen before, because I don't see them at Lowe's or Home Depot. I looked. These are kind of hard to find, but I believe Hyde is still making them. It's model number 09100. It's right here on the handle. I've used this for years. Now, I started out with a Hawk, just like the guy in Vermont, and then I went to the pan. You know, I'm sure you're familiar with the pan. You hold it in one hand and you got your knife here. And I really didn't like the pan. Then along came this knife right here. And I can load this up with drywall compound. I can apply it to the seam or whatever I'm working on, and then I can scrape off what's there, scrape off what's there, and I can smooth with this 10-inch blade. You're not going to do that with a Hawk or a pan. So it together, then my compound goes back on there. I can work it, and I have my pail of compound nearby. Yes, I have to load up a little bit more often than with a pan, but it's just a nice combination. This shelf knife, that's what I'll call it, a shelf knife, and a 6-inch, regular 6-inch knife. Together, they work great. I can do all 3 coats of most drywall situations with these 2 tools right here. If I need to really feather something out, or if I'm skim coating, I go to a bigger knife. But I'll still use this to apply. You just get used to it. It's what you get used to. But I'm telling you, this is like a little Hawk and a knife combination. This Hyde 09100 is a tool worth checking out. I love this tool. I'd be lost without it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next video.